here's pretty much where I left off last week. I didn't quite get this far, after class ended. And you know what? It's still not finished. I don't have drawer pulls, and I mean, there's still minor things that I could do to this thing. But right now, I'm gonna call this done, and I'm gonna start a new Photoshop document, get a presentation board together, and then start going. So first, before I do that, let me just find my assets folder. All right, so I got some marble. I have okay, I think maybe this was the trying to find what floor I used. Maybe it was that one. All right, doesn't matter. All right. So in any case, I have my assets. Oops, I have my assets folder here, and I just wanted to double check. I just wanted to double check to make sure that I had all of my assets. I went a little bit into panic mode because I didn't check it before class, but it looks like I do. With that in hand on the other screen, let's start. And I have my render. So I've got my assets, I got my render, and now I'm ready to start in. So I'm going to just start a new Photoshop document, new, and I'm going to do 11 by 17. And I happen to have a 17 by 11 at 300 pixels per inch. And I'm going to just click on that, but I'll just go over to make sure that I've got it here. So it is my units are inches, my width is 17, the height is 11, my resolution is 300, maybe a little bit high, but it's fine. RGB color. I'll leave my background transparent. I'm going to create my own background for this. And I think I'm good to go. So let me just hit create. There is my blank canvas. So first thing I want to do is save. Okay, good. All right. So first, I'm going to put a background on, and I'm going to just use a an adjustment layer. I'm just going to use a solid color adjustment layer so that later on I can change the color as I bring in my rendering. I may want to change the color of the background. So, you could just paint a color on your background, but I'm going to just use an adjustment layer, the black and white cookie, solid color, and ooh, I don't think, I think I'm just going to do something a little more taupish, I think. Okay, as I'm wont to do, I am adjusting my color. And I now have a color fill for my background, and I'm going to call this background. So as I'm working, I hate this color. Even that's better. As I'm working, I can, adjust the background color however I want. All right, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to divide my board into sections. So the large section near the top is going to be where I'm going to put my render, and then down at the bottom or on the side, I will have my materials. So maybe I'll put mine on the side. So I'm going to treat them both slightly differently. So I'm going to use my rectangular marquee tool here. It's the second tool down. And I'm just gonna select the area. And I don't have to be too super careful about what the area is, but I'm gonna put it there. And you know what? If you wanted to do an area on the bottom, you could do it like that as well. But I think I'm gonna do mine up at the top. And within this area, I'm going to just again use my black and white cookie and just do a solid color in there. And you know what? I'm going to leave that for now. I'm sure that's not the color that I want to use, but I'm just going to leave that. So I'm going to just call this my sidebar. All right. So now what I'll have the rendering in the top middle area. I will have my title near the bottom, and then I'll put my materials here on the left side. I think that will be my tactic. And I could put a little bar here that separates these. And that's something I do like to do from time to time. So I'm going to do that as well. So, and I'm still in the rectangular marquee tool, and I'm just going to draw like a tiny little rectangle. You could draw a line if you wanted, but I find it's easier to just do a marquee. And so I just made a thin little rectangle here. And I am going to, with my black and white cookie, I am going to do yet another solid color. So this one I'm going to do sort of in an orangey color or something like that. And all of these, I'm just going to call this my line, I guess. And all of these are adjustment layers, so I can tweak them as at will. And if I don't like the side of the sidebar here, I can click on my sidebar layer and go into my transform tool, Control T for transform, and then I can, let me undo that. If I hold my shift key, I can squeeze it, narrower or wider, or I could, if I decide I want a thing across the bottom, I can do that as well. So the transform tool will allow me to adjust all of this stuff very, very easily. One nice little thing that I can do with this little gold bar here, this line, is I can use some FX on it. Like I could put a drop shadow on this. I could also use bevel and emboss to kind of like make it like bump out and make it look a little more round. Let me try it. So let me go to bevel and emboss here, and let's see here. Change this change this angle to 0 here, and so I'm just playing a little bit with it, and it's pretty minor what it's doing, but it's still giving me a little bit of depth. And if I wanted, I could put a drop shadow on it as well, and I can make the drop shadow go to the left, I think. So if I go 180 degrees, and oh, that's going to make my drop shadow to the right. If I go 0 and then pull this out, so I'm getting a drop shadow that's on the left, or if you want the drop shadow on the right, I put my angle at 0 here, but I can change the angle to 180 degrees, and now the drop shadow is on the right, but I like it on the left, I think. So so that's easy enough. All right, so let's bring in our rendering, and then once I have my rendering in, I can tweak some of these colors. I've got my rendering here. It's all done. It's saved. And because it's a PSD file, a Photoshop file, I can bring a Photoshop file into another Photoshop file. So I'm going to do that. So I'm going to go to File, and normally I would go Place Embedded. But if I know that I'm going to do some work on my Photoshop on my elevation later on, and I want to put it in here, but later on I want to make some changes to this, and when I save them, and I want those changes to appear on my render here, instead of clicking Place Embedded, I'll click place linked, which is right below place embedded. So I'm gonna try it. So I'm gonna go to place linked. Here's my elevation right here. And I'm just gonna place it. There it is. Brought it right into my document. It's really, really huge, and I'm in the transform tool. I know that I am because I've got that big blue X. If you're not in the transform tool, Control T gets you in it. Well, now I'm going to adjust the size to something that is going to make me happy here. Okay, so I've got a lot of white on this guy here. So I think what I'm gonna do is use a layer mask to mask out parts of the of this rendering that I don't want to see. So again, with my rectangular marquee here, I'm just going to kind of go around and select what area of this render I want to see. So I'm just kind of using my eyeball here, and I'm getting more or less the distance here from the marquee to the top of the rendering, the same more or less down here. Maybe this is a little bit big, but I'm not going to fuss with it. I think it'll be fine. Okay, so I have that area selected. And if you remember, when you're using a layer mask, everything outside of that layer mask will be masked out, everything on this layer. So if I apply my layer mask, and that is just to the left of the black and white cookie, when I hover over it, it says layer mask. Just going to apply it, and there it has masked that out. And now I can use my move tool and move it exactly where I want. And if I'm not happy with how it's crop, I can either redo the crop, or redo the layer mask, or I can adjust the position of the rendering within the masked area. And to do that, what I need to do on my layer mask here, or on my kitchen elevation layer, I'm just going to uncheck or unlink the mask and the image. So this is the actual image here. And now with them unlinked, now I can move this around within my mask. So I'm going to say that, and then I'll relink them. And there it is. There's my rendering on my board. So what else can I do with it? I could put a border on it if I want. I could put a small drop shadow on it if I'd like. Let me just try it. Let's see how it looks. So I'm gonna, with my rendering selected, I'll go to my FX and I'll choose stroke if you want to put a border around it. Okay, that's maybe a little bit heavy. So let me
Science.
make it smaller, maybe change the color to maybe this green, or maybe this green here. Bring it down a bit. And I could put a drop shadow. I mentioned a drop shadow I can put on here. Let me, you know, so now I'll just position this, I think, where I want. That actually is probably not too bad right there. Okay, good. All right, so let's pull in our materials here. And before I even do that, let me go to the sidebar here and play with this color. So I'm just going to grab this green here. And what I did was I took this green from this fireplace image here when I created it. Okay, so that's too light, but maybe I can bring it down to something like that, maybe. All right. So what I'm doing, oh yeah, I am bringing in some images here. So, okay, so my wood floor, I can't really find the exact floorboard for some reason. So that's bad of me. I should have, but maybe it's this wood textured floorboard. So I'm just going to pull this into my render. It's huge. Oh, that probably is the floor. And what else? I've got, oh, this Calcutta marble. This is my backsplash and my countertop. Oh, okay. So I'm not bringing, it's not coming in because I'm in the transform tool here. So let me click done. Now I can drag these in. And really, I was telling my Viz Tech class, this is really, if you were in the like, oh, that's not it. If you were in a, graphic design class, they would have slapped my hand for bringing assets into my rendering like this. What they want is me to go to file and then place embedded. That is really the best way to do it. What else do I have? Oh, the wood. Let me see if I can't bring the wood in here. I think I brought it. I think it was this American mahogany. Pretty sure. Okay. Okay, so now let's so I'm going to line these three up here on the left side. So I am, by the way, you can if you are on your move tool, there is a little button up here and it says auto select. And if you click on it, it will select that layer and then you can move the object the way you want. All right, so I'm gonna bring it down so it's about yay big. Okay, so there is my first, and then I'm going to put uh, the wood floor, or I could have done stainless, and then I'm going to put um, the mahogany down here. Maybe I'll actually kind of do it like okay, so countertop, and then millwork, wood base cabinet, and then the floor down here. That kind of like makes some sense. All right, so let's go over to mahogany here. So now I want this to be the same size as this. And what I'm going to do is going to let me let me select this or what I'm going to do is I'm going to set this size and then I am going to crop around this. Wait, you know what? It's easier for me to show you. So first thing I want to do is I'm going to just kind of move this on top of my of that other piece there. And let me see. Here is my marble. I'm holding my control key and I am selecting the thumbnail for my marble. I'm not on my mahogany. I'm not on my wood. I'm on my marble here. And then I'll go up to my mahogany layer and then I'll just create a mask. And now I've masked out all of the wood except for the area that is exactly the same size as as the stone. So I'll just bring this down here. Comme ça. Okay, this I'm going to do the same thing. So I'm going to make it a little bit bigger so you can see the floorboards a little more clearly. And I'm going to move it. It can be below it too. It's fine. No, I'm going to put it on top. And then I'm going to, again, do the same thing. I'm going to hold control and I'm going to select my marble here. And there I have, it has highlighted that area. So it is going to mask out everything outside of that area that I have highlighted. So I'll just go with my layer mask, mask that out, and then I can move this down here more or less. So let me arrange these, kind of get them even. Okay, so another thing I just want to just gonna nudge this a little bit. I'm trying to just visually try to get an equal distance between here and here. Notice that I put I've got I've got a little border here on the top and the side, and I'm trying to keep they're not quite equal there. I'm trying to keep the top and the side equal, but I have a little more space on the bottom. Visually, when you are arranging stuff on your on any board, really, you want to think about borders on three sides, the left, the top, and the right being more or less equal. And then the border on the bottom, that should be a little bit more. There should be a little more on the bottom. And this is just a visual thing. It's the way that we perceive things. When you pull it, if I move this down so it is equal here down here, visually it can look like it's heavier down here. So I just try to keep it the border at the bottom a little bit bigger so that it sort of lifts up my rendering and I don't know. I think it looks a little more professional that way. All right, if you want to, you can. I'm just gonna pull a guideline here, and actually, just coincidentally, my guideline and the top of my stone and the top of my render are really right in the same spot. Okay, so what else can I do with the so let me go to my stone here. And in the old days, so like when I was working in an office and I was your age, we did actual boards. They were made of foam core or gator board and or sometimes sometimes even plywood, depending on what was on them. And we would actually glue on stone or tile or whatever the or wood or whatever the samples were. They were actually glued onto the board. Now we just put an image of the sample on the board. But I like to make it look a little three-dimensional, just like I'm doing like with this side, this little bar here, and I'm pulling the rendering, off the board a little with a drop shadow. So I want to do the same with this. So two things that I like to do, I like to put bevel and emboss on these, and I like to put a drop shadow on them. So that's what I'm going to do. So I'm going to start with my FX here. I'm on my marble layer here. And I'm going to start with bevel and emboss. And let's see. Let me, let me zoom in so I can see a little better and you can see a little better. So bevel and emboss. And I don't have to go crazy with this. And if you want to make the dark a little darker, you can by pulling down here. Or if you want to cause reflection and make the light a little lighter, you can up here. But I think that'll do it. Just as giving it just a level of three-dimensional quality to it that I kind of like. All right, so there I have, oops, wait. Oh, there it is. Yeah. So there I have bevel and emboss added to this. Oh, and I was going to put a drop shadow on it too. So let me go to my FX, put a drop shadow on. Actually, that's okay. I'm just going to leave it like that. Okay, that looks good. So now I want to do the same thing with my wood and maybe with my floor. I may not do bevel and emboss with the floor because I've got planks that are running across, but let's try it with the wood. So if I want to do the exact same FX technique that I used on my wood here, what I can do is I can copy them. So I'm going to go over to my marble here in my layer stack, and I'm going to right click on it. And let's see if I can find it. I'm looking for, here it is, copy layer style. It's all the way near the bottom. So now I've copied these effects here, and now I'll go over to my American mahogany layer, the wood, and then I'll right click and here near the bottom again, paste layer style. And as soon as I do, it has put the exact same effect on on my wood sample. So I kind of like that. I'm going to do the same thing for the wood, for the wood floor here. So I'm on my wood floor here and right click and paste layer style. So I think, yeah, I think the bevel looks a little weird here. So all I'll do is come here to my wood floor here, and I've got my drop shadow and bevel and emboss, and I'll just turn bevel and emboss off. All I need to do is just turn the little eyeball for bevel and emboss, just turn it off. Or if you like it, you can leave it on. Or if you want to adjust it so it's not the same as the other ones, you can just double click on bevel and emboss and maybe you want to make it a little smaller. So I'm gonna make mine just a little bit smaller. Or you can make it a little bigger, whatever makes you feel comfortable and makes your render look professional. Okay, so let's see. I want to put a title on this. So I think what I'm going to do is I'll do some paint. I'll do some paint samples here, and then down here I'm going to put a title on my board. Should always, put your client's name on your board. All right, so let me go to the top of my layer stack. So I'm going to put my text up near the top, and I'm going to go to my type tool or my text tool here. I guess it's a type tool. And I'm going to click on it. And there's two ways that I can put in text. One is just put line text in, and the other is a text box. So I can draw a box and the text will appear in the box, just like that. And it's just putting in placeholder text here. But I think I will just put in line text here. So I am just going to select the point somewhere on my render, and there I am. I've got some text. So mine is coming in. It says this bizarre script, Edwardian script. I know that I was playing with it. I cannot tell you the reason why. So I'm gonna change the font. Okay, so let me talk about fonts. I'm a bit of a font freak. I have I have so many fonts on my. I mean, I just have lots and lots and lots of them. Um, but when that's not the font I'm going to use, but let me just sidebar here and talk about fonts. Okay, so when you're when you're doing fonts, sometimes you have the notion to do a crazy font like maybe this is or something cute and scripty or something that is kind of I don't even know that that is just very cartoony or decorative and I would say that um I would say not to do that. It tends, unless you have a really good reason, like maybe you've got like a retro kitchen, 50 style kitchen, and maybe then you'll put in some 50 style font. that you can justify that. But just randomly putting in a wacky, crazy font, cartoonish type font, lowers the quality of your rendering so it looks more amateurish than professional. And when we're doing this stuff, we're always striving for professionalism. You want your stuff to look professional. So if you are unsure about a font, side on the conservative side, and choose fonts that are pretty standard. And the two super standard fonts that everyone has, that everybody pretty much knows about, is Times New Roman and Arial. So Times New Roman is a serif font. Let me see if I can find it here. Times New Roman is a serif font, and what that means, what a serif is, are these little things that stick out of the letters. They're on my eyes. They're on this U. They're here on the M, at the bottom of the M. Those little flare outs are called serifs. So if you are using a serif font, that more power to you. I like using them. Times New Roman is a perfect example of a serif font. A Arial, let me go to Arial here. Arial is a sans serif font. In French, the word sans means without. And this is a font that is without serifs. So this I doesn't have the little serifs at the top and the bottom. The M doesn't have that serif. So depending on what you want to do, you can choose a serif font and a sans serif font. I also like to do font pairings. So what's a font pairing? That is two fonts, and I pretty much always limit myself to two fonts. So what two fonts? I will usually choose either a serif font and a sans serif font, or a serif font and an italicized serif font. So I could do Times New Roman, and then I could do an italic. That would be a font pairing. I will sometimes you do color, maybe change the color of the font, but in general, I like to have font pairings. So I'm gonna do a serif and a sans serif font here, and I'm gonna erase that. And I'm gonna call this Robert's Residence. Okay, so that's too big. So with my font selected here, there is in my properties over here, there's a whole bunch of settings that I can adjust my font. Right here, this is the size of it. Right now, mine is set to 58.08, but I can do, let's say 48 or maybe even smaller, 36 or any combination. I'm also noticing that in my little floating menu down here, I can also choose 36 point font. So that is one way that you can change the size. Oops, I didn't save it. So let me just Roberts. I think I'm going to leave it all caps. Another font pairing would be all caps and upper and lower case. That would be another way to distinguish two different fonts. And so now, if I click off this, now it's saved. Okay, so also what it's done is I'm not doing a black font here. Mine happens to be green. It's probably because I chose that green for this wall or for this background here. And that's a good thing. I generally don't like to use black fonts. Even if it's really, 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 really dark and it almost looks like a black font, I generally will shy away from black fonts. Black fonts just sort of look like they are less integrated into the rest of your rendering. So I generally will shy away from pure black fonts. Okay, so there is my title. Let me put in another one here. And let me change this to Arial just so that I have a different. And I'm also going to bring the size of this down. And I'm going to call this Kitchen Remodel. And I see that this is a bold, and I don't, that's just too bold for me. So I'm just gonna come up to the top here. I probably accidentally chose Arial bold or whatever, but I'm just gonna make it Arial regular here. And one other thing that you can do that I didn't mention, and down here, there's a thing here that says tracking. And what tracking allows you to do is to widen the spaces between your letters. And sometimes I do use that to interesting effect. So let me just change my here. Let me exaggerate and go to 100. So, well, even that actually 100 doesn't look bad. What if I go to 200 here? So there if you want to spread out your text, you can do that. The other way that you can change the size of your fonts is I'm just using the selection tool here. I'm out of the font tool. I'm just using my move tool here, and I'm selecting the font. And you can see there is a border that's around it, kind of like the transform tool. And in fact, it is a transform tool. I can grab a corner and I can change the size of the font that way as well. And if I want these to center right above each other, I'm just if I move this there, you can see that pink line, and that's telling me that I have them centered right on top of each other. Let me add a line here, I think. So let me I can either do this with my pencil tool or I could do with the line tool. Let's just use you know what? Let's do the line tool here. Or the pen tool. No, wait a minute. Here it is. So my line tool is I've got the rectangle ellipse. Mine is set to rectangle right here. And if I left click and hold, there is the line tool here. And this just allows me to draw a line. So I'm going to just draw a horizontal line. So I'm holding my shift key and I'm coming out. All right. And then, so let's see if I can't adjust these so that everything is centered. And then let me, Robert's residence, kitchen remodel, and line. So I'm selecting all three of these here, and then I can move all of it together. Like that, I guess. That's not bad. Okay, so let's put some text on our materials over here. So I wonder if those materials are too big. Well, let's go for it. So let me Let me just go over to my type tool, and I'm just going to come right over here. And I'm going to change the size to something smaller. Oh, that's too small. And I will call this countertop. That's too big. And I want a little more space, So what I think I'm going to do is I'm going to reduce the size of all three of these. So I am selecting my three objects here. I've got my wood textures, I've got my mahogany, and I have my marble. I have them all selected, and I'm going to use the transform tool here and resize all of them at the same time because I want a little more space in between them. So first thing I'm going to do is just resize them. Now, let's move this one. And then I'll move this one down. I'm just going to put a guideline here to help me. And I know I'm fussing you. I always feel like I'm boring you guys. All right, so countertop, good. And then I'm going to copy this. I'm just going to hit Control C to copy this, and then I'm going to paste it, Control V. So there I've got countertop, and I'm going to put this underneath, and I will call this whatever the name of this was. Calcutta. I'll just say Calcutta marble. And maybe I'll make this Arial. Okay, so now I'm going to grab my countertop and my Calcutta marble. I'm going to grab them both and copy them. Control C and then paste. Control V. So here I have another instance of them, and I'm going to put them underneath this here. And I'll call this base cabinet. And I will call this American mahogany. And then the same for, the flooring. I'll just, actually, they're probably both in my, uh, they're probably both on my clipboard, so I can just paste again. Yep, there it is. I could do the same here. So wood with flooring, and I'll come down here. Ah, and I don't know, oak, white, oak, white. So you get the idea. Oop. All right. I could also put in some, paint samples. I generally will put a couple paints. Let me do it. So I'll go over. I'm gonna do a. You can either do a rectangular or a round. Let me do for paint. I'll just do a circular. I don't know why, but I often will do a circular paint swatch. So all I'm doing is left clicking and holding. We're at the second button, the rectangular marquee tool, and I'm finding the elliptical marquee tool here. And then I'll just start here. And if I hold shift, I will get a pure perfect circle. So my circle will be that big. And now within that circle, I can just use my black and white cookie and just choose a solid color here from my for that circle. So I'm just going to do solid color, and let me go to my wall color. I'll hit OK. And let's add the same bevel and the same drop shadow to this as well. So I'm on my Calcutta marble uh, layer here, and I'm just going to right click and I'll click copy layer style. And now I'll go, I need to find this layer here, and let me call this my wall paint, just so I don't forget what it is. And then right click and paste layer style. So there, I've got it. That's a little hard, I think. So let me go to my bevel and emboss here and soften this up. Move that there. And then let's copy this. So I'll just go to my wall paint layer, and I'm going to duplicate the layer. So I will right click, duplicate the layer, and this is wall paint copy. Uh I'll call this wall cabinet paint. Oops, I'm calling it Wabinet cabinet paint. And then I'll just move it over to there and change the color of it. So I will click on the swatch for my wall cabinet paint, choose my cabinet color, And then, I would put some text here, wall paint, Sherwin-Williams XJ17 or Sherwin-Williams mossy green and cabinet paint, Benjamin Moore, whatever. So I think you get the idea here. Not to belabor this, but that I think, gives me I think what I need to convey this design to my client. Okay, so let's look at a couple examples here, and I'm not going to go through a lot of them, but I just want to show you a few of what other folks have done here. All right. So this this actually looks really, really lovely. She's even got her own logo here, and she it's very simple, and I like that she has a couple boards here. She actually went and did well, she actually did all three elevations here, and she did a floor plan. I'm not even asking you to do that. I'm just really asking you to just go this far. But she has just divided her render area with just a simple line here, and that looks really clean and elegant. It looks really nice. She's got her major materials down here. And then she went ahead and put some accessories here as well. What is this? Cabinet pulls and appliance pulls and stainless steel faucet. This looks very, very nice. It looks really professional. It's clean. I also like that she's got the elevations labeled, east elevation here. You should probably do the same. Call it your east elevation so that the client, knows, particularly if you decide to do more than one elevation. By the way, notice on the side, this is the side, here's the sink right here, right? And what she did was she literally blew out the wall. We had a long discussion about this, about putting in, I said what they would have to do in order to do this. And she put literally glass. This is glass to the outside. So it's really nice. This would be really, really expensive to do, but it looks great. Okay, let's look at a couple others. So this is very similar, literally, to what I just did this afternoon. I think I would have liked these. Okay, so she's got a pole here, and that's fine. But I would have liked this mesh and this marble backsplash and this cherry wood floor. I would have liked them to been the same size. It just looks more uniform and clean and orderly. So that would have been my uh, that would have been my predilection. I like her font here. I think that looks okay. I like that she put her name on it, and you should put your name on it too. That other student, she went beyond that. She actually here's her name here, and then she actually built her own logo, drew a logo, and so she's really going the full 9 yards. And you don't have to go that far, but she's got her name there. Okay, so here's another example. Again, very similar. Maybe I was inspired by these guys when I was doing mine. Here's what I don't like. Oh, okay, so she does have her materials all the same size, and I give her kudos for that. I like that. But I think my issue is this right here. Stainless steel appliances. She's literally going to the very edge of her board and to the edge of this divider strip here. Not Doesn't look good. It looks squished on her thing. So I would have either widened this so that everything fit, or put all of these in a smaller font, or I would have done stainless steel and appliances on two lines. But this really looks unprofessional, if you ask me. I would have also, and again, I am nitpicking here, I would have taken Robert's residence and Nantucket residence kitchen, and I would have aligned it with here, with the side of the of the rendering. I would have pulled it out here. I think that would have looked better. This looks a little tight, and it would have been nicer if this border just continued down here. Um, so why is this font twice as big as this font? I, I don't know. I think it's problematic. I'm not a fan of it. Also, what I do like is instead of just a solid paint color, she did a texture back here. So what she did was she went online and you can just do this, go, background textures or Photoshop textures or paper textures if you want it to look like it's on paper. And then you can bring it into your rendering, set it to the size, stretch it to the size of your canvas, and you can be working on a with a texture as well. That would have been fine as well. So, all right, I think I beat this one up enough. Here is, oh, that's mine. I was gonna say, boy, this one looks really good. That is that one. Let's see. Okay, so here's another one. Okay, so she put a wood, sort of a wood background on hers, and it looks actually really great. I love it. And she's got her materials here. This is a little longer than those, but I don't know. Somehow it's not bothering me, so I'm okay with it. At least the widths of them are the same, and I think that that is probably why I'm forgiving this. And then what she did was she put her fonts actually in the material, so that works as well. I like that too. Um, I think this looks great. Hmm. All right, one or two more here. Let me I think I can close that one. And let's see what we got here. Yeah, I mean, I think this is okay. I have an issue with this teal color, but this is a personal thing. I'm not a fan of this is not my favorite color. That all that aside, what I do like is she's got this band that's running across with her name and the title of the project. Um, And she did it in, I believe, this teal color. So I love that there is some, uniformity going on, at least with that. So I do like that. I don't know what these two dots are. It would have been nice if there was some label on them. I think that would have helped. But yeah, and I think I've got two more here. I think this looks great. I love this. I think that this border is just a little bit heavy or thick on the top. I would have pulled this down a little bit. And I love the double line here. I think that that looks really snappy too. I like her materials. I do think that and this is a lovely render. I wish the render was a little bigger. I really do. I'm, she's giving more space to this gray title bar down here than she is the render. So I think that she could have somehow arranged this and made this work with with the render being a little bit bigger. I love her small text here. I think it's great. Other than the size of the render here and this, I think this looks pretty darn good. Okay, one more. I think this is the one we just looked at. I guess not. Okay, so one more here. So here's what I was talking about before. So the side of the render here, she's lined up these materials and her text here. And I think that that just looks a little sharper. It looks a little more professional. I like it. I do like that she put in a texture back on the sidebar here. I think that's kind of nice. I think this works. Okay, so pretty easy, I think, hopefully not too complicated for you all. I would, if it were me, what I would do is I'd go on and I'd put in like my my drawer pulls I'd put over here. I might put my sink here as well, and maybe center these, pull them over. But I think you get the idea. I'd also put my name either down here or off to the right or someplace on here. Or if I had more space over here, I'd put my name or my logo down here as well. I think that would improve this as well.